Hey everyone, before I dive into this story, please hit that subscribe button to join my channel for more heartfelt tales like this one. I'm Lauren Reed, 32, a freelance journalist from Michigan. Our family's New Year's retreat at the lake house was my sanctuary. Grilling burgers, casting fishing lines, and sharing laughter that warmed my soul. I poured every ounce of myself into perfecting those moments, believing they bound us as a family. But last November, during our planning call, my dad's words sliced through like a cold blade. Traditions are for us parents. You can sit this one out, he said, his tone steady but sharp. They were welcoming neighbors and my brother's girlfriend instead, as if I were an afterthought. My heart clenched, but I forced a smile, ended the call, and felt something shift inside me. I wasn't going to plead for a place in their world. I made a bold move that left them stunned. When they saw what I did, their phones blew up with messages I didn't answer. What happened next? It reshaped everything. Have you ever felt sidelined by your own family? Share your story in the comments. Don't forget to like and subscribe. You won't believe how this unfolds. Raised in Michigan, our lake house was my haven, where I felt truly tethered to my family. I'm Lauren Reed, and those childhood summers with my parents, my older brother, and me were pure magic. Nestled by a serene shore, our lake house was our refuge. Every New Year's, we came together for a tradition that defined who we were. The air hummed with excitement as we planned a weekend of barbecues, fishing adventures, and draping fairy lights along the dock. It wasn't just a celebration, it was our anchor. My mom, Barbara Reed, was the soul of the kitchen, crafting menus for days. Smoky ribs, sweet corn on the cob, and her legendary potato salad that had neighbors singing her praises. She'd hum Motown classics, her hands expertly slicing vegetables while I watched, mesmerized. My dad, John Reed, a stern engineer with a hidden love for fishing, ruled the lake. He'd guide us onto the boat, teaching us to cast lines and find the best bait spots. His hearty laugh rang out when we hooked a big catch, and he'd pat my brother's shoulder, beaming with pride. I had my own role. I was the light, the one who made the lake house sparkle. At 10, I began stringing lights along the dock, threading them through railings until the place glowed under the night sky. By 16, I was orchestrating games, charades, scavenger hunts, keeping everyone laughing into the early hours. I planned every detail, from the music to the table arrangements, chasing perfection. My brother, Mark Reed, 3 years my senior, was always the charismatic one. He'd help Dad with the boat or charm neighbors with his easy smile, but he never cared as deeply as I did. When he moved to Chicago for a banking job at 25, things changed. He'd visit less, call less, his life now rooted in the city with his girlfriend. I'd text asking if he'd join us, but his responses were curt, distant. Busy, he'd write, or maybe next year. The distance hurt, but I told myself it was just him growing up. I held tight to the lake house, to the tradition that felt like home. Mom still sent me recipes to review, and Dad asked which bait I'd choose for fishing. I thought we were still a unit. As I grew older, Mom and Dad were gushing about the city officials were light with pride. My freelance writing, they'd nod, but their eyes lacked the same spark. It's not stable, Mom once said, her tone soft but cutting. I brushed it off, diving deeper into our tradition to prove my place. By my late 20s, I was the one keeping the flame alive, arriving early with boxes of lights, coordinating menus with Mom, inspecting the boat with Dad. Neighbors, lifelong friends, joined us, their kids, adding to the joyful chaos. I thrived in it, feeling like we were one big family. But Mark's absence grew heavier. He'd drop in for a day, then leave early, citing work. His girlfriend began filling his spot, slipping in like she belonged. I didn't mind her, she was kind, laughed at my humor, but Mark was drifting away and Mom and Dad seemed unbothered. I never missed a New Year's at the lake house. For years, I dropped everything to be there, even when it cost me dearly. 2 years ago, a major New York magazine offered me an interview for a staff writer role, a career-defining opportunity. I was 29, scraping by as a freelancer, pitching stories late into the night. It was a dream, but it clashed with our family tradition. Without hesitation, I declined, convinced the lake house mattered more. Mom needed me for the menu, Dad for the fishing plans. I couldn't let them down. Looking back, I wonder why I thought they'd care. My work wasn't a hobby, though. A few months ago, I landed a feature in a national magazine, a deep dive into Michigan's small-town music scene. It took weeks of interviews, late-night revisions, and countless rejections. When the editor called it one of their best pieces that year, I felt I'd finally arrived. I framed the article, keeping it on my desk, dreaming of the moment I'd share it with Mom and Dad. I imagined Dad's rare grin, Mom's warm embrace, maybe even a toast at the lake house. But last spring, when I brought it up at dinner, Mom just nodded. "That's nice, Lauren," she said, her eyes on her phone. Dad muttered, freelancing shaky. "Mark's banking job, that's secure." My stomach nodded, but I swallowed the pain and moved on. Mark was always the star. At 33, he had a corner office in Chicago, a sleek apartment, a girlfriend who fit his world. Mom raved about his promotions, Dad about his car and bonuses, as if my bylines were invisible. I'd smile through it, hoping one day they'd see me the same way. I wasn't envious. Mark earned his success, but the comparison stung. I'd built a career I loved, taking risks they couldn't grasp. Freelancing was grueling, every story a battle, every paycheck uncertain. But I was skilled, and I wanted them to notice. I threw myself into the lake house to compensate, arriving with fresh ideas, brighter lights, playlists to keep the kids dancing, games that sparked laughter. I thought perfection would earn their recognition. Last winter, I spent hours researching eco-friendly lanterns, hoping Dad would appreciate the effort. He didn't. "They're okay," he said, barely glancing up. Mom was too busy texting Mark to notice. I kept going, telling myself it was for the family, for us. I'd text Mark, asking if he'd bring something special, but his one-word replies, work, stung. I didn't push, hoping the planning call would reunite us. This time, I was ready to shine. My article had just gone live, earning praise from readers and colleagues. I spent days preparing how I'd share the news, rehearsing to get the words perfect. I pictured Mom's smile, Dad's nod, maybe even Mark offering a rare, well done. I saw myself at the lake house, sharing my triumph by the fire, everyone toasting my success. It wasn't about boasting. I just wanted them to be proud, to see me beyond the girl who hung lights. I didn't expect the call to shatter something inside me. Late November, I sat at my laptop, ready for our New Year's planning call. My notes open, my article's success fueling my confidence. I'd practiced how I'd share it, imagining their reactions. The Zoom window opened, their faces appearing, Mom sipping tea, Dad leaning back, Mark distracted with his girlfriend beside him. I took a breath, my voice bright. "Hey, everyone, I've got exciting news." My article landed in a national magazine, and it's getting amazing feedback. I waited for a response. Mom glanced up, said, "Oh, that's great, honey," then returned to her phone. Dad nodded, his eyes on some papers. Mark mumbled, "Cool," barely looking up. My heart sank, but I pressed on talking about the lake house. "So, for this year's menu, I was thinking we could try smoked brisket, and I found these solar lights for the dock." Dad interrupted, his tone flat. "Actually, Lauren, we're switching things up. We're inviting the Wilsons, the Carters, and Angela, Mark's girlfriend. You can skip this year." The words hit like a blow. "Skip it." I stared at his face on the screen. "Wait, what?" I managed my voice tight. "You mean I'm not coming?" Dad shrugged. "It's not a big deal. Traditions are for us parents. You're young, you've got your own life." Mom nodded. "We thought it'd be nice to have the neighbors this time." Angela's thrilled to join. Angela smiled, unaware, while Mark shifted uncomfortably. I stared, my chest tightening. "So, Mark's coming, right?" I asked, already knowing the answer. Dad didn't hesitate. "Of course he's family." The world tilted. Mark was family, but I wasn't. I'd spent years planning, decorating, keeping the lake house hours, and now I was disposable. I wanted to yell, to demand why they valued him over me. Instead, I forced a smile. "Okay," I said, my voice steady despite the storm inside. I get it. I'll sit this one out. Mom looked relieved. It's just 1 year, Lauren. Don't overthink it. Mark glanced at me, his eyes flickering with something, maybe guilt, but he said nothing. I ended the call, the screen going dark. Alone in my apartment, I replayed Dad's words, traditions are for us parents. Mark's family, each one cut deeper, unraveling years of effort. I thought of every New Year's I'd poured my heart into, every time I'd chosen them over my dreams. For what? To be replaced by neighbors and someone I barely knew. Angela wasn't family, but she got an invite over me. Mark, who rarely showed up, was their priority. I wasn't angry at him or her, it was Mom and Dad for making me feel like I didn't belong. I opened my laptop, staring at my article, the words blurring as my mind raced. Who was I to them? The girl who hung lights, planned games, kept their tradition alive, or someone they could discard. I closed the laptop, my hands trembling. I wouldn't beg or cry, but I knew one thing. I wasn't the same Lauren who'd joined that call. Something had changed, and there was no going back. After the call, I sat in my small apartment, the silence heavy, Dad's words looping in my mind. I needed clarity, so I called Kristen Moore, my college best friend who always knew how to untangle my thoughts. They told me to skip New Year's, I said, my voice low. They invited Mark, Angela, even the neighbors, but not me. Kristen didn't miss a beat. Lauren, you've given them everything. When did you last do something for you? Her words struck deep. She was right. I'd spent years prioritizing their traditions, chasing approval that never came. Forget the lake house, she said. Go somewhere that lights you up. That night, sleep wouldn't come. Kristen's advice echoed, urging me forward. I opened my laptop, scrolling travel sites, my pulse racing. Paris. I'd always dreamed of its art, its cuisine, its freedom. But it wasn't practical. My $15,000 in savings, earned through freelance gigs, was for emergencies, not impulses. Still, the idea of staying in Michigan, pretending everything was fine, felt unbearable. I had to do this. I had to choose myself. The next morning, I called Susan Carter, a travel agent I'd met while working on a story. I want to go to Paris for New Year's, I told her, my voice firm despite the nerves. Can you make it happen? Susan was all in. Give me a day, she said, her enthusiasm infectious. By evening, she sent an itinerary, a week in Paris, a charming hotel near the Seine, flights, and a cooking class. The cost? Just over $15,000. I stared at the number, my savings flashing before me. It was reckless, but it felt right. I sent the payment, my hands shaking as I confirmed. This wasn't just a trip, it was a declaration. Packing was a whirlwind. I grabbed warm clothes, wool sweaters, a thick coat, scarves for Paris's winter chill. I packed novels I'd meant to read, and my camera, a gift from Kristen, to capture every moment. As I zipped my suitcase, a mix of freedom and fear washed over me. I was breaking free, choosing myself, but what if it was a mistake? What if I returned to the same emptiness? I pushed the doubts away. This was my chance to rewrite my story. I still needed to clear it with work. I emailed William Hayes, my editor at the local paper, requesting a week off. Freelancers rarely get breaks, but William replied quickly. Lauren, your article's still making waves. You've earned this. Go enjoy Paris. His simple words felt like the validation I'd craved from my family. Someone saw me. It silenced my last doubts. By early December, everything was ready. My flight was booked for the week before Christmas, my hotel confirmed, my itinerary brimming with plans. A museum tour, a stroll along the Seine, a cafe crawl. I didn't tell Mom or Dad. Mark texted once, asking if I was okay, but I left it unread. I wasn't ready to explain, not to him, not to anyone. For the first time, I was planning for myself. As I folded my last sweater, a spark I hadn't felt in years flickered inside me. Paris wasn't just a place, it was a new chapter. The plane landed in Paris on a crisp morning. I stepped into the city, breathless at the sight of cobblestone streets and glowing lights. My hotel, a cozy gem near the Seine, welcomed me with a warm room, and a view of twinkling bridges. I dropped my bags, feeling a surge of possibility. For the first time in years, I wasn't orchestrating someone else's holiday. This was mine. On my first day, I joined a cooking class in a charming studio. The chef, a lively Parisian, taught us to make coq au vin, his hands dancing as he explained wine reductions. I laughed with strangers, my apron dusted with flour, relishing the thrill of learning something new. Later, I wandered into the Louvre, standing awestruck before the Mona Lisa, its subtle smile drawing me into a world beyond my own. Paris pulsed with life, and I was part of it. At the cooking class, I met Carol Larson, a freelance writer in her 40s with sharp wit and a warm smile. Over coffee, we shared stories. I left my family behind, she said, stirring her espresso. They wanted me to stay in Ohio, take a safe job. I chose writing, moved to New York, and never looked back. Her words resonated. I shared my story, the lake house, the traditions I'd clung to, the call that broke me. You're here now, Carol said. That's what counts. You're choosing yourself. Her story felt like a guide for my own path. I began exploring more, camera in hand, snapping photos in Montmartre, where artists sketched under lamplights, and along the Seine, where couples strolled hand in hand. I posted a few online. A glowing cafe at dusk, a street performer strumming a guitar, not expecting much, just wanting to hold on to the moment. Then my phone buzzed. A message from Mom, where are you? Another from Mark, Paris? Seriously, even Dad sent a brief, you okay? Their words tugged at old wounds. They noticed me now only because I'd left. I didn't respond. Instead, I posted another photo, me smiling outside a pâtisserie, croissant in hand. Each day in Paris chipped away at the weight I'd carried. I wandered markets, tasting cheeses and fresh bread, lingering without a schedule. I sat in cafes, jotting story ideas in my notebook, the words flowing freely. One afternoon, sketching by the Seine, I realized I wasn't just the girl who hung lights or planned games. I was Lauren, a writer, someone building a life on her own terms. The ache for Mom's hugs or Dad's approval, the sting of Mark's distance, it lingered, but it no longer defined me. The next night, Carol invited me to a writer's meetup. In a lively bistro, we swapped pitches and laughed over wine. You've got a fire in you, she said, clinking her glass against mine. Don't let anyone dim it. Her words stayed with me as I walked back to my hotel, the city aglow around me. Paris hadn't just given me a trip. It had revealed my strength. I wasn't fleeing my family. I was stepping into myself. On New Year's Eve, Dad called via video. I was in my Paris hotel, sipping wine, the city's fireworks faintly audible. His face appeared on my laptop, Mom beside him, Mark and Angela in the background. Lauren, Dad began, his voice gruff, we saw your photos. Why didn't you tell us? I set my glass down, my pulse quickening. I wasn't here to explain. I was ready to speak my truth. I didn't think you'd care, I said, my voice steady. You made it clear I wasn't needed this year. You chose Mark, Angela, the neighbors over me. Mom's eyes widened, but I continued. I've spent years keeping our traditions alive, but you've always favored Mark, his job, his life. It's all you talk about. When have you ever valued mine? Dad shifted, his jaw tight. We didn't mean it like that. We thought you'd be fine on your own. You're so independent. His words felt like an excuse, not an apology. Mom cut in, her tone sharp. Lauren, you're overreacting. It's just 1 year. We didn't exclude you. I laughed, a bitter edge slipping in. You told me to skip it. You invited Angela, who's not even family, and kept Mark's spot. How is that not exclusion? Angela looked away, uneasy. Mark cleared his throat, surprising me. She's right, he said quietly. I felt it too. You put me on a pedestal, but it's suffocating. I didn't ask for it. Dad's face hardened, but Mom's eyes flickered with unease. I took a breath, years of weight pouring out. I gave up so much for you, jobs, dreams, just to keep our family together. And you dismissed it all. I'm done. Dad tried to interrupt, but I cut him off. I'm not coming back to the lake house. Not this year, not ever. Mom gasped. Lauren, you don't mean that, but I did. I ended the call, the screen going dark. My hands trembled, but I felt lighter, like I'd shed a burden I'd carried too long. Back in Michigan, I settled into my apartment, the Paris trip still vivid in my mind. My phone buzzed with messages, Mom's apologies, Dad's gruff texts, even Mark wanting to talk. I ignored them. I wasn't angry anymore. I just didn't need their approval. I dove into work, pitching new stories, meeting deadlines. William, my editor, assigned me a bigger feature, praising my drive. Kristen and I met for coffee, laughing about old times, planning new adventures. My life felt full, not because of them, but because of me. Later, a neighbor told me the lake house gathering fell apart. Mom and Dad tried to keep it going, but without me, it lacked heart. Mark didn't show up the next year, saying he needed space, too. Mom called him selfish. Dad stopped mentioning traditions. Their regret was evident, but it was too late. They'd built a family on uneven ground, and it crumbled when we stopped holding it together. I didn't gloat. It just confirmed I'd made the right choice. Reflecting, I learned my worth isn't tied to a family that doesn't see me. I spent years chasing their approval, thinking it would complete me. Paris showed me I could define my own value through my work, my choices, my life. Family matters, but when their love comes with strings, it's not love, it's duty. I chose myself and I'd do it again. To everyone who's followed this journey, thank you for being here. Your time means everything. Have you ever had to walk away to find yourself? Share your thoughts below, hit that like button, and subscribe for more stories that resonate.